Good afternoon. We hope you had a nice break, good lunch, and you are now joining us again for the second part of the program about the RISE report, the RISE index. We have two more parts of the program to go. First of all, we would like to present the report to two people, a UN independent SOGI expert, Victor Madrigal-Borlos, and the president of the Dutch Council of Churches, Geert van Dartel. And if we have handed over the report to them and listened to some words from them about the report, we will continue with a panel discussion, and who is in the discussion I will introduce to you later. These are four stakeholders who have their own perspective on how the report can be used, how it is relevant, how it can function in dialogue. But first of all, I'd like to connect to Geert van Dartel and Victor Madrigal, hoping they are both with us. Mr. van Dartel, you are, as I can see. Can you speak?
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, I just wanted to know if we hear you. Yeah. No, okay.
Can I start or do I have to wait?
Yeah, no, I was just waiting 1 second to see if Victor Madrigal would also be joining us, but he is not right now. Once again, we are very happy to have you here. Honestly, we also would have had liked the opportunity to hand the report to the Secretary General of the Conference of European Churches. You know that, but that is not to say that you are our second choice. You are a first choice too. Finding in you an address in an organization of churches, of course, is for this report very important, and we are happy that you are here and that you want to speak some words to us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Willy. Second best doesn't need to be bad, huh?
No, indeed.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everybody here. I hear an echo in my mic. Can that be solved?
I'm afraid that cannot be solved, no.
Okay. Then I will start. Thank you very much for inviting me today to attend on behalf of the Council of Churches in the Netherlands the presentation of the Rainbow Index 2020. I am aware that today is an important day for you. This report on inclusiveness of Christian churches in Europe is the result of several years of research in which many persons from different European countries participated by collecting and evaluating data. It is a special report because it looked at the degree of inclusiveness of churches in Europe, primarily from the perspective of LGBTI Christians themselves. In my brief introduction, I hope to explain to you how the Council of Churches in the Netherlands may relate to this research report. First of all, some information about the Council of Churches in the Netherlands. The Council was established in 1968 and has 18 member churches and associate members. The diversity of the churches in Europe is also reflected in our Council. Our diversity is greater than the diversity of churches in the research report, because in addition to Orthodox, Byzantine, Slavonic, and Oriental, Catholic, Roman Catholic and Old Catholic, and Protestant churches, the Council of Churches in the Netherlands also includes Adventists, Free Evangelicals, Pentecostals, the Salvation Army, and Quakers. A golden rule in ecumenical relations is that there is much more which unites us than what divides us. The one faith in the triune God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, baptism, Holy Scriptures, and the conviction that every human being is created in God's image, a child of God with human dignity that is to be respected and protected. This is somehow our matrix of inclusiveness. the fundament of Christian sister and brotherhood that is open to every person and from which no one who wants to belong to it may be excluded. Without this fundamental awareness that we as Christians of different churches are bound together in Christ, it would be more difficult to discuss differences in vision and opinion, trying to bridge them where possible, and where this is not yet possible, to keep on working for a better mutual understanding and not to lose out of sight the purpose of the ecumenical work. Ecumenical work emerges from the desire to restore communion between divided churches, but because of that, it requires a spirituality that makes room for the otherness of the other, and this can only happen in a spirit of mutual trust and dialogue. In recent decades, many dialogues between churches have been held about matters of faith and church order. It has been pointed out for some time already that ecumenical dialogue is equally needed on ethical questions and especially on views on anthropology, gender identity and sexuality. As you know too well, views on this matter can be very divergent, both within and between churches. What is the position of the Council of Churches in the Netherlands in this matter? In May 2011, as our General Secretary Christine Crowell already mentioned in a word of welcome on Thursday, the Council of Churches signed a declaration on behalf of all member churches against violence against homosexuals. I would like to read the first paragraph from this declaration. It says, "We do not think alike about homosexuality on all aspects, but we are united in the belief that human beings are created in the image of God and are precious in His sight. Therefore, people should treat each other with dignity, respectfully, peacefully, and lovingly. And violence against homosexuals in whatever form is out of the question." A few weeks ago, we discussed this declaration from 2011 again in our plenary meeting to hear from each other what has been done about it in the past 10 years and whether and how it has worked out. Although there are clear differences, the outcome of the discussion was a solid reaffirmation of this declaration. The member churches of the Council of Churches stand, without exception, for a respectful treatment of all people, regardless of their sexual. With this statement, not everything has been said or done. Particularly in Western societies, there has been a major shift since the 1950s in the view of gender identity. That has a global impact and is also legally and socially anchored and accepted in many countries. The traditional Christian concept of a human being, marriage, family, sexuality is thoroughly challenged. Some churches go along with this development, other churches are wrestling with it, and some churches remain convinced of their previously established teaching. In itself, it is not strange that new visions of gender identity and sexuality clash with views passed down from generation to generation. In our secular context, freedom of religion for the churches is an important guarantee of their free and independent existence. This brings us to the challenging aspect of the Rainbow Index of European Churches 2020. It shows what, from the perspective of LGBTI Christians, should be done to be an inclusive church in terms of church organization, practice, language, and public witness. Those who follow the developments know that these issues cause great tensions worldwide, especially within churches. I was asked to tell whether I think that the Rainbow Index will help churches in the Netherlands to reflect on the degree of inclusiveness. And I will be frank. My answer would be that it depends a lot on the approach, the way the Rainbow Index is used and put forward in context with churches and in the media. If the outcome of the Rainbow Index is merely used to praise or to denounce particular churches and countries, it will not stimulate self-reflection nor dialogue. It can even be stigmatizing. Moreover, the scientific underpinning of the scores of the churches on this index, as admitted also researcher Rijn Brouwer in the daily newspaper Trouw earlier this week, is vulnerable or rather weak. Also, it is likely that a number of churches may not agree with the index itself as a measure of inclusiveness, and this finds its roots in fundamental anthropological and ethical convictions of those churches, and in my considered opinion, that should be respected too. On the other side, there is a great need for space for dialogue, especially on the fundamentals. The issue affects all churches existentially, which deepens the dialogue, makes it valuable, but also vulnerable. The fact that this research has been done is of great value and cannot be neglected. I hope that the interchurch dialogue on gender and sexuality in the Netherlands and in Europe will receive a new impulse by this research. It is important that the LGBTI perspective itself is taken into account in the course of this dialogue. Therefore, the research report needs to be studied seriously in view of building bridges of understanding in mutual respect, with compassion and sensitivity for all concerned. In the light of this intention, I received this research report on behalf of the Council of Churches in the Netherlands, and I promise you, we will study it carefully. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Geert, Mr. van Dertel, for your words. Thank you for mentioning the declaration against violence against homosexuals. And we are very happy to hear that all the member churches of the Council once again show their support to this declaration. And also, thank you for acknowledging the RISE report as an important element or building stone for building bridges in dialogue with LGBTI people. And yes, it is a dialogue, a dynamic dialogue, so to say, surrounded by many tensions. But once again, we are very happy that you were willing to receive the report and show your willingness to see it as a building stone for further dialogue. Please stay with us for 1 second. Dat is Eleni, ja, dat is te vroeg. Okay. Yeah, because we are still going to see if we can get in touch with Victor, and I would like to ask the members of the panel not to call in already, because then you push out other people. So only call when the panel discussion starts. We'll wait another minute to see if Victor is there. Not there? Okay, that's a pity. Mr. van Dertel, thank you for joining us. We have to say goodbye now to see how we will continue the program. But we hope to see you in the nearby future as a dialogue partner Certainly. On this topic. Thank you very much. And greet all the member churches on our behalf.
Once again, thank you for the invitation, and I will follow the panel discussion that follows after this part.
Wonderful,
Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you. Zullen we gelijk door met de paneldiscussie dan maar? Alleen dan moet iedereen er zijn. Even kijken. Ja. Okay, the panel discussion was about to start 10 minutes to 2 and it's only 5 minutes, so I think we can try to start with the discussion. So all who will be joining us in the panel discussion, you can call now, so we will see the 4 of you at the same time. We'll give you some time to call in and to see you appear before we continue. Sure, we have some minutes to have everybody call in and see them appear on the screen. Hello, Evelyn, I think. Yes.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you.
Good.
We are waiting for everybody to call in and to see you all 4 at once. And there we see Eleni. Welcome, Eleni. Can you speak? Just to see if we can hear you. We cannot hear you. Hetzelfde probleem. Oh, the images, I can't see that, but you are frozen, Eleni, so maybe try to call in again. There is Michael Brinkschreuder. Hi, Michael, can you speak?
Yes, hello, yes. Willy.
You can speak, and we can hear you.
Hello, Evelyn.
Hi there, good to see you. Eleni's image is still frozen, I believe. Am I correct, Kees? Yeah, okay. So, Eleni, if you want to disconnect and connect again, that might probably save or get this problem out of the way. And then we are still waiting for Tatjana. Andere kant, sorry. Okay. And there's Tatjana. Yes, Tatjana, can you say something?
Yes, I'm trying to say something. Do you hear me?
Yes, just to check if we can hear you, and we can hear you.
Good.
Okay, one last attempt to defrost Eleni. Because she's still frozen, right? Yeah, okay, maybe. Hi, Eleni.
Goodbye, Evelyn. Oh.
Eleni, can you say something? Still frozen, okay. Yeah, yeah. So once more, it's best if you disconnect and call in again, and that might create a non-frozen image, and we'll then hear you speak, hopefully. Okay, but I suggest we start with the 3 of you and then see if Eleni can join us properly. Welcome, all 4 of you. I already mentioned your names. Evelyn Paradis, who is the Executive Director of ILGA Europe. The name of your organization already fell this morning because the Rainbow Index of ILGA Europe, of course, has been the model for building our index. And then we have Michael Brinkschreuder. Michael, you are part of the European Forum, and what we should now mention is that you are also part of the working group of the Roman Catholic Churches, and you have contributed greatly also to the index. And then we have Tatjana. Tatjana, you are no longer the co-president since last Saturday, but you are still willing to speak from this perspective and also from your specific background. And then we see Eleni, yes, and I see you moving. Eleni, can you say something?
Yes, hello.
Yes. Hi. It's great to have you
Very
with us.
bad connection. I'm really sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We are all doing this live. It's a great challenge, and we are happy that it is working as it is working. So, very happy to have you with us. I just introduced the other three panel members. We'll introduce you now. Eleni Tsetsekou, you are the director of the LGBTI or SOGI unit of the Council of Europe. We have already collaborated with you, even putting together a dialogue with churches, mainly from a Greek Orthodox background. So we are happy to have the four of you with us, and to start off with, we would like you to introduce yourself a little more than I have done, and to share with us how you appreciate the Rainbow Index. You have all received the report, and can you give your first impression about the index? And of course we will go deeper into the data and the solutions or the results of the report later. Evelyn, can I start with you?
Yes, gladly. Well, firstly, thank you for inviting me to be part of the event today, and thank you so much for all of the praises that I heard this morning for ILGA Europe. It's been a long piece of work for ILGA Europe to develop the Rainbow Map and Rainbow Index over more than a decade now. And I have to say, it's really great to see that it is, useful for other tools. The second thing, and I probably should have started with that actually, is really congratulations, because listening into all of the presenters in the earlier session this morning, it's very clear that it's been a huge piece of work for all of you, and that it was done with great intentions, but also great great seriousness, and in credibility, in ensuring that you were developing something that was going to be credible, but at the same time and constructive. The previous speaker was speaking of the importance of this tool becoming a tool for self-reflection, and I think the depth of thinking that you have developed and put into developing the leaders and the report are a really solid basis to develop this instrument that will be leading to self-reflection, definitely for churches, but I would say also for LGBTI groups, and hopefully also political institutions. So I think, you wanted me to introduce myself, sorry.
Yeah. That's just fine. Please go ahead.
You introduced my name, but I'm the director of ILGA Europe, and ILGA Europe is the kind of pan-European umbrella LGBTI organizations. We work in Europe and Central Asia, and we have over 600 members, the European Christian Forum being being one of the many members.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I hope to come back to you with a question how this specific index can be used by the members of ILGA Europe, but we will come to that. Eleni, can I give you the floor to introduce yourself further and give a first impression, your first impression of the Rainbow Index for European churches?
Thank you, Willie. Thank you very much. Thank you, first of all, for having invited Council of Europe to this important conference. 6 years ago, when the Council of Europe leadership trusted me with this file, my dream was actually to work with the church on this topic. I come from Greece, from a very conservative church, which plays a rather political role in the country, and has a say in many issues, and especially on issues like this one, the LGBTI topic. So I think now we are approaching a very important moment, because we are going to launch a project, as you probably know, some of you, aimed to tackle hate speech from faith-based institutions. My unit is a very small unit. We are just 6 persons working in 47 member states to implement the Council of Europe standards, the national standards on LGBTI equality. And of course, this index, as the ILGA Europe, the Transgender Europe, the OAI, the IGLO index, is another very useful resource, allowing us to know more about the living experience of LGBTI persons in our member states. And actually, states and governments cannot say that they don't know. They cannot say that they don't have data. It is your overview, especially because it's consisting on 47 indicators, measuring the inclusivity of churches. I think it is another important food for thought, but also an element which we'll use it in our project to fine-tuning the roadmap of the implementation of this project. So it is very timely, actually.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah,
we're very glad to hear that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and as you say, there's no more denying, so to say, about the situations of LGBT people of faith now that we have these data and these results in the index report. Thank you. Michael, can you introduce yourself further and give your first impression, also as a co-researcher of the report, of course?
Yes, thank you, Willi. So my name is Michael Brinkschröder from Germany. I'm a member of Homosexuals in Church in Germany and the study group Gay Theology. And I find this really a milestone forward because now we have so clear data, both quantitative and qualitative, about many churches in Europe. And if I may say, from the Catholic background, because I'm also chairing the Catholic Working Group in the European Forum, we can now see that the Catholic Church is not unique in this matter. There is a big span between 1 and 25 points in the scale, and that really means a lot for us, because now every church can say, look, there is a possibility. We can do better. Other Catholic churches in other Catholic countries or in other countries do so. Why don't we?
Yeah.
So from this perspective, it's just fabulous.
Yeah, I will certainly come back to that and ask you how you can work with that fact of the fact that it's diverging so much. Thank you for now. Tatiana, our still acting co-president, what is your first impression, or how do you appreciate that we now have this inclusivity index for churches?
Thank you, Willi. Yeah, I hope there is no need to present myself. I really appreciate this research because it is the first attempt to create an index in European level. And I can imagine how difficult it is because we tried to do some research in Russia of the same kind, but not to such extent, of course. And it is difficult because data is very diverse, churches are very different, countries are very different, political situation is incredibly different. So the fact that we have now this data, this index, it is a miracle.
It is even a miracle, wow.
Thanks God. And what I like about this research, it brings us to the next level of communication and collaboration with the LGBT activists, with church leaders, with church activists, journalists, politicians, and so on. Having a clear data always allows to be more trustworthy. Because it's one thing when you have a book of stories, but when you have scientific data, it is something more significant and valid in, at least in Europe.
Okay, thank you. But before we go a little more in depth in how the index can be used in your specific context, I don't know if you have been able to read the entire report, because it's quite a report, 130 pages. Maybe you already had the opportunity to flip through the website we have also created. But if so, can you share with us what you think is the most striking result that you passed by looking at all the data? Any one of you?
I don't know if I can take the floor.
Yes, you can.
Well, at the first glance, from a country perspective, they're completely different ranking positions when compared with other indexes. Some countries, for example, Roman Catholic Church, with quite well-developed legal and policy framework, are very close to the bottom of the index and with very low score, like Portugal, Spain, Ireland. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe going to you directly, Michael. Yeah, you
Yes.
actually already mentioned the striking result, the divergence or the difference between Roman Catholic churches in their respective countries. Was that for you the most striking result, or have you seen other things as well?
At least it was for me the most important result.
Right. Yeah.
And it explains also the differences between the various countries that we are working and dealing with in our working group. We are in very different situations within our churches there, or within our one church actually. But also I would say the low scoring of Spain, also of the Catholic Church in the Netherlands and the UK, that was extremely surprising for me, because I know groups there, they are very active for many decades, but still the situation was considered so negatively.
So that's
also on the other hand, I'm very proud that the Catholic Church in Germany is scoring highest in the Catholic family. And I also think there's a lot of work behind this, of course, but others are also doing work. So what makes the difference?
Yeah. Okay, we will come back to that because I want to know more. But maybe first, Evelyn and Tatjana, can you share with us what you saw as the most striking result in any way?
For me, the most striking was difference between Orthodox Church in Finland and Orthodox Church in Russia. Because, well, I'm not Orthodox myself, but I grew up in an Orthodox country, so it's close to my heart. And to be honest, I hardly believe that nowadays Russian Orthodox Church can do significant improvements in terms of LGBTQI issues. But an example of Finnish Church shows that it is possible, and there is always the way. But there is difference between seeing the way and being able to follow it.
Indeed. Yes. Evelyn.
Well, I would say, I mean, I did skim through the report, but I do go back to something quite fundamental that you've presented, which is the difference between the average score and the range of scores. So I think, the average score, which is 15.5, I believe, out of 47, that is quite low. And in many ways, it does mirror what the average score of our rainbow map would be, right?
Exactly,
The average in Europe is still not great. But it's the range in this as well. It's like from 45.5 out of 47 to 1. And I think so there's like two very important messages for me in this. Is like, yes, we do need clearly to do a lot of work with churches, but at the same time, there are real front runners. There are people who are doing this really well, and it's in a meaningful manner. So there are actors to work with to pull the rest of the group up. So those were the two kind of, I know it's the basic figures, but like the core figures, but I think for me, those are really important finding.
You already compared it to your own index, because of course the methodology behind is slightly different, but you can compare. Is this index for your work, creating the ILGA index, in some way helpful?
Yes, I think it is. But if I may comment, because there was a lot of discussions around like how can, are you hearing me well? Sorry.
Yes. Please continue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I think that there is an element. It's true that your index is different, but at the same time, listening into this morning to the findings, I think it's less different than one would think at first sight. It's true that the language is very different. We use human rights and equality legislation language. You use inclusivity, but a lot of our indicators point to elements like you need to have explicit measures in place. You need to be assessing the tools and the resources that you need to make sure that a law just doesn't remain a law, but it actually translates into real life practice. And that's where our index and our map has evolved to, and there's a lot of work to be done. And so in that sense, yeah, listening to you, we are not that different. And I actually think because you have to go more into the real life practice, I think that is something inspiring for us in terms of how can we learn from how you've done this to further go into that direction.
Okay. Yeah. And maybe because it digs into the real lived experience, it gives a little bit more the temperature of the culture, so we say, in the say in the different churches and countries that might shed a new light or a different light.
Exactly, which has always been a clear limitation to our map, because we don't have yet the tools nor the resources to really dig across the 47 countries into the real life experience of people. We don't have the social indicators yet. So Elodie mentioned, the other networks that do similar indexing, Transgender Europe, OII, IGLIO, and so on. And I think it is together that we kind of add the more complete picture. So it is great now to have an additional tool to bring that picture more complete.
Wonderful. Yeah, maybe we can really bring them together in a way. That would be really nice. Michael, we already mentioned the fact that there's we can see a big divergence when it comes to Roman Catholic churches in different countries. First of all, what do you think the current attitude of Pope Francis might have to do with this? And secondly, how can you work with this fact as working groups in the different countries? Does it help you in your attempts to dialogue with the churches or to bring about change?
First of all, I think that Pope Francis has opened the space to create, to let the churches flow into this kind of diversity and difference in the scale. I assume with the other Pope before, that was much narrower together.
Yeah.
And of course, this creates tensions. We are already in the middle of this. In Germany, the Catholic Church has the synodal path, making hopefully steps forward even further. And other churches say the German Catholics are heretic and are moving forward towards a schism. So there is a lot of tension already in this. But it is still very useful to show that we are far not alone. Many Catholic churches are in the high group, high scoring group. This is really a trend that there is a lot of progress visible there. And so nobody can blame us in Germany alone, because, for example, in Austria and France and in Malta, Catholic churches are also moving forward quickly.
Apart from this positive fact, how can you put it to use in the working group of the forum, but also in the different member groups we have in different European countries? Do you already have a vision on that, or?
I think we should use the suggestions forward for the ways forward that were made, because they give such a clear ladder upward in the situation of inclusivity, that we share best practice. So countries that have already established, or churches in countries where this pastoral work, for example, has been established and the quality standard is in existence, to share this. Also, how did we get there?
Yeah.
Or another conversion practices, to share more on very specific issues. How did other churches reach this standard that they have, so that others can learn? I think this is sharing of best practice primarily.
Good. Yeah, what I think is very attractive, that is rather abstract term inclusivity has been broken down, so to say, or deconstructed into 47 different criteria for inclusivity, which gives you the opportunity in every separate church or country to very specifically look into where progress has been made and where progress still can be made, and you can pinpoint where the dialogue needs to take place around particular topics of inclusivity, or where change should be made. I think that's one of the, for me, that's one of the very big benefits of having this very detailed index that breaks down this abstract term of inclusivity in all these different criteria. This is supposed to be a panel discussion. It's very difficult because you are in different places, but I would like to encourage you, if you have questions for each other, then just raise your finger, and I will give you the opportunity to also ask each other questions. Yeah, Tatjana, you have a question.
Yes, I have a question to Michael, because I know that Michael involved not only in Catholic work within European Forum, but also into broader worldwide Catholic work in terms of LGBT inclusivity. And I'm wondering, do you plan, or did you think to do the same research maybe in other Catholic countries or countries with Catholic majority, to compare, for instance, how things are going on in France and in Brazil, in Argentina and maybe India? I don't know. What do you think?
Yes, this is a very inspiring idea to transfer this methodology. One change is then needed, because it would also require a negative score, I think, because I mean you cannot go lower than 0. But my impression is that there are countries that would fit into categories lower than 0. That would require a refinement of the categories and of the indicators. But in general, yes, this is a very fantastic idea to globalize this with the global network of Rainbow Catholics, for example, or with, I don't know, also with other religions to operate in that direction.
But then even we should have the possibility to go below rock bottom, so to say. Yeah. Well, we'll see whether or not we can develop that. Thank you. Eleni, I remember coming together, I think it was on the 5th of July 2018, if I'm not mistaken. I already referred to that, coming together as activists, you on behalf of the LGBTI unit, and a big number of Greek Orthodox theologians, and they brought a big number of students with them. I must honestly say, at the time I was surprised that it was possible to create such kind of meeting from the context of the Council of Europe, but I was also very happy that you did, because I think it's very important that we bring the political discussion and the discussion from the perspective of the Church that so deeply influences culture sometimes, that we bring it together. Looking at it from that perspective, you already told something about a new project that is happening. How can this index be of help to your more political work and the way you support governments in different countries to find progress in LGBT rights?
Well, first of all, you remember this unique experience of having around the table representatives of Orthodox, Catholic and Anglican Church, and particularly the discourse of the representatives of the Orthodox Church at the time came as a surprise to me, because we could qualify I don't want to use very harsh vocabulary, but it goes very close to hate speech. And they have the best intentions. I think the problem is there is a big gap between us, the human rights world, and the rest of the world. We suffer from what we call a moral narcissism. We need to strengthen our ability to communicate our values and principles in a very comprehensive way, because our values and principles are the same, actually, with those of the church. It's about love, it's about acceptance, it's about family. And they all participants, especially the representatives of the Orthodox Church, told me that they would like to see a follow-up to this first meeting. Of course, we addressed a very hot issue at the time, which was the LGBTI, but we could, of course, say the same for the refugees, for other minorities. And from there, we had this idea to develop first, targeting, of course, the Orthodox Church, and awareness raising. We are not going to call it a training. We don't want to train the priests or the representatives of the church, but to establish a dialogue and a partnership, let's say, a platform where we will, at the end of the day, speak the same language about human rights. And this is a project to be implemented in 10 member states for the moment, and then we'll move to other countries like Poland, for example, to work with the Catholic Church. And as I said, this index is a powerful tool to establish this dialogue. We should start from somewhere. Okay, we can always mention the first meeting in Strasbourg. We can always mention the work we are doing on hate speech, because the Council of Europe now is developing a new standards, a new recommendation. The Commission Against Racism and Intolerance works also now on a new policy, general policy recommendation on LGBT. So there is a huge amount of work going on at the Council of Europe. And of course, working with the Church is part of this work, as it's a very important partner in our member states.
Yeah, I'm very happy, and I think it's very relevant to bring these two together. Evelyn, did I see you raise your finger? Or am I mistaken?
No, but I'm happy to contribute.
Okay, please do.
No, I just wanted to react to the point that Eleni was making in terms of the limitations of the human rights language and how all of us talk and assume we need to talk and expect the rest of the world to speak in. And I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think there's a need to, if we're gonna try to make social change happen in the world, we need to find a language that builds bridges, and that it's not just about us, it's also about the people that we were trying to reach out to. And so in that sense, I mean, maybe I'm preempting a question that you were going to ask me, really, but
just fine, go ahead.
Some of the things that were coming to mind in terms of the usefulness of your work for LGBTI activists more broadly. I think the report is showing that we're just not all churches. I think there's this idea sometimes in the LGBTI movement and the LGBTI communities that everything that is religious, everything that is to do with churches is not necessarily anti-LGBTI. And I think because of the range and what you're presenting, you're actually debunking that myth of saying, no, you know what, there are some churches that, there are churches that are really proactive, that are doing, they're not just getting points because they're not doing anything bad. They're actually proactively implementing things. They're trying to be inclusive deliberately.
Yeah.
So I think that is an important message to bring, to say there are good churches to work with in this region.
Yeah.
And it's also presenting, I think, new languages of saying what is inclusivity. Inclusivity means different things in different contexts, but it's still about inclusive. It's still about seeing people. It's still about valuing people. It's still about recognizing the equal dignity of people. And so I think there's a great richness in your report in that. And then so it's really about changing the narrative around churches and religion and faith.
Yeah.
And that is like huge potential that I'm like really excited about.
Yeah. And also I think adding a new narrative to the space of the LGBT community in general, right? Because the human rights discourse is very important, and we hope we can appeal to churches with a human rights initiative. But now we have the building stone of a new narrative also that appeals to them, because it's directly related to their own teachings, practices, and the real lived experience of LGBTI people in churches, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think if I may add another piece that I think is always, from experience, we find useful, is that when you have indicators, you start creating mechanisms to hold people accountable. So in this case, you're developing tools to hold churches accountable to what they're doing, especially the ones who want to do better, right? You're saying, well, if you're really meaning what you say, this is what you should be doing. And that is also sometimes a way for, like, and now I'm speaking more from the LGBTI movement's perspective, but I think when we feel we have tools to hold people accountable, we already feel better about it.
Right. Yeah.
So,
because it gives a basis to accountability. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that was what we were lacking until now, at least from the faith perspective, so to say, or the church perspective. Yeah. I'm looking to Kees just to see if there are any questions from the people listening in to you as panel members. Can you repeat the question once more? Okay. I will come a little closer and out of so. What are your wishes for the report to look like in 5 to 10 years? Maybe we can ask that question to Tatjana first, being a board member of the European Forum.
Thank you, Willy, and thank you for the question. I'm not a visionary, to be honest, and I cannot say that, I want in 10 years this report show us a beautiful picture of all accepting churches.
Sure.
But I would like to, talking in more practical way, I would like to see a monitoring system created which would follow every year and analyze churches maybe every 2 years and collect data about different churches to see the difference, because the final picture, it doesn't matter. What does matter, it is difference between what we had before and what we will have in 5 years. So I would like, this question brings me to establishing a monitoring system to collect the data about churches and religious communities and religious activists within different countries and different regions.
Yeah, that would be the logical next step. Yeah, we hope to get the means together to do that as well, because this is a big effort. Evelyn, you wanted to react to that? I see you raising your finger. So
I can maybe offer a wish for you.
Okay.
And I wish I wish you that especially some of the churches that are upper on your scale are really in the next 5 to 10 years are really using your tool for their own sake. Like this is becoming a tool of, okay, how do we walk the talk basically, and how do we make sure that we are really moving forward, but that they're also using it as a tool amongst themselves, like to reach out across churches. Because I think that's, now I'm really inspired by our own experience of the Rainbow Map. I think where the map has been incredibly successful is now that, you know, European governments are saying, oh, okay, so what is the roadmap towards LGBTI equality? Where are we? Where do we have our own gaps? But also governments to governments, which, you know, is peer conversations always
always the best.
Always works, works well.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works better than civil society to government, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But there's also that conversation of governments trying to say, okay, so how are you doing this?
Yep.
And how can I learn from you? And what do I have to offer to others? So if it could move into something where churches, especially the ones that, you know, have the great intentions and sincere intentions, are using the tool, you know, for themselves, but also across, across sectors, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, we hope it's going to be an instrument in inter-church dialogue, and but of course it's also up to us, offering the report to all the separate churches that have been analyzed, hoping that is a signal for invitation to go deeper into the report. Eleni, did you want to react as well?
I'll just say you do have to play a role, because I can tell you, Ilge Europe was behind the scenes to make sure the governments are speaking to other.
Sure.
Now
okay. Also,
us,
there we need to play.
You need to give the impetus.
Yes, exactly. Eleni, you wanted to react as well, I think.
Well, I wanted to say that only God knows what is going to happen in 5-10 years, and I hope he has some some very good intentions. But we can definitely help him. Or help her, or whatever. It is not important, I think, now. But I think we have the tools. It is one of the tools to change and to bring in the same line all the indexes. And I think you have not. The church has not realized how the role of church is important for some countries, for example. And I will give you the example of Greece. I was invited the other day to discuss the National Action Plan, the LGBT Action Plan, organized by the Prime Minister's Office, with all main stakeholders in Greece. Nobody mentioned the church, and in some point I said, listen, it is very important how you communicate this action plan, firstly. And secondly, you should definitely involve the church, or open a dialogue with the church. And then everybody took the floor and said they don't even dare to, they know that it is very important, but they don't even dare to open a dialogue with the church. But it is so, and this is our the feedback that we get from all authorities. We discuss and negotiate. The role of church is so important. So we cannot really ignore, and it is now time to work with them.
I agree. In some countries, the churches plays a deeply influential role still in people's minds and in how they think about ethics and these kind of topics. So yes, they should be invited around the table, I think, to enter into the discussion. I look to Kees once more because there's one more question from the audience. Yeah. Kees, you need to come here and ask that question because I cannot reproduce that. That's way too difficult. Use the microphone.
Lily, I can read it
Oh yeah, read it, Michael. Yes, please.
because it's addressed to me. Would Michael ever
and it's on
focus
screen,
ways
right? Please read out
to
the question.
copy or import the binary structure of the Roman Catholic Church, lays and bishops from Germany and Switzerland to other bishops' conferences? This morning they presented binary structure as an important factor. So the inclusion of lay Catholics specifically. The problem is that this is not so easy to implement. I mean, in Germany, this is 150 years history behind this and also behind the strength. But for example, in Poland, even the chair of Wiara i Tęcza Foundation was involved in creating a new Catholic lay organization, which is liberal. So it brings a new voice into the whole picture of the Catholic voices in Poland. So I can only encourage people, if that is not existing, but I think in most countries it is already, to start lay organizations, to form broad coalitions with women, with youth, with workers, with refugees, whatever, whoever is interested, to move on and to start such a lay organization, because that is really a building stone for the future.
Yeah, and maybe we need to make sure that they get our specific inputs now that we also have the index, right? Yeah. Okay, time is slowly running out, but either we make room for one more question or we ask the panel members for closing remarks they might have. Okay, there's a nice concluding question from the audience, I understand. And the question is on the screen right now? Okay, then I will come closer to read it. To me, it was very useful to learn that even one pro-sentence said out loud about LGBTQ counts that much, both in research and both as a lived experience in the content of my country. Wow. And this is said by Judith, who is from Hungary. Well, that's not only a very nice closing remark, but also a very encouraging closing remark, I think. Yeah, that even one result can be so encouraging. Still, I would like to give the floor to our panel members one more time for your own closing remark in this panel discussion. Let's go with the same order again. Eleni, would you like to start? If you have something concluding to say.
No, just to say that this is definitely the starting point of a cooperation at European level on this topic, and I do hope we will be involved in your work. You will be involved in our work, and together with the other international non-governmental organizations like ILGA, Transgender Europe, and Intersex International Organization, we will continue to work in this project. They have not been involved so far, but it is in our plans. Evelyn, you have already been informed, I think, about our plans to work with the church. We try to be discreet for the time being and to establish our strategy in each and every member state we are going to work, but you will definitely going to be involved in our work. And thank you very much for inviting the Council of Europe in this conference.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for being with us. Evelyn.
Well, I'll simply say congratulations again, because it's an incredible piece of research that you've produced together, and it's very clear that it's an extraordinarily collaborative process and project, which adds even to the value. And then secondly is to say, well, thank you for inviting me, because then we're making it very clear that we need to pull all of the pictures that we're painting, all of our different organizations are painting together. So I look forward to bringing now your index as part of the larger picture that we paint within the movement.
Great, wonderful. Yeah, when is the next ILGA Europe conference?
Well, The next
The physical one, I mean.
Yeah,
Or
physical
is not clear
conference,
yet?
Unfortunately, we'll have to wait until 2022.
Okay. Well.
But we are organizing another online gathering this year, as we
Okay.
did last October.
Might be an opportunity to share. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Michael.
Yes, I would close with a message to donors actually, because if they would analyze this report and who is frontrunner in which church family, they could see frontrunners are churches that have received project grants. For example, the Church of Echo and the Church of Sweden. So it has an impact. Also, Hook had received a grant to work in the Catholic Church. And this also has an impact. So I think that can also be made clear by these results in the score, in the ranking.
Yeah, we don't always want to ask for money, but we really need it to continue this kind of work.
I think
yeah.
faith-based advocacy is completely underfunded.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, thank you for this appeal. Tatiana, can you close?
When I think about church and inclusivity, I remember the picture of one Swedish church, Swedish cathedral, with a big banner where it was written, sorry, we're exclusive church. Only sinners are welcome. So I do hope that this inclusivity index will make our churches exclusive, will make our churches the place where only sinners are welcome.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we could go into a deep discussion about what is sinner then, but yeah. But we understand your closing remark. It's very nice. Thank you once again, the four of you, for joining us for this panel, dialogue, conversation. And we are sure that we will meet the four of you in different contexts and circumstances again to pick up this conversation. Thank you for now, and also thank you for all who has been tuning in to hear about the RISE report. Our program ends here. That is the program about the Rainbow Index, and we welcome you back at 5 o'clock for our open service. So we're going on a break now, but see you again 5 o'clock. You are very welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you.